Happy New Year, everybody. I'm just doing a quick walk through the garden, checking things out. It's winter and everything's pretty much dead and messy, but just wanted to take a look at everything. I hope you all had a good 2025 and that your 2026 is off to a great start. I wanted to talk about all the resolutions that we make for New Year's, the weight loss and more exercise. We talk a lot about, spiritual growth and eating healthy and all the good stuff. And one thing that I started to read up on last year was internal cleansing, mostly parasites, parasitic, organisms that are really harmful to our bodies that we don't really consider flushing. So my New Year's resolution is to try and maybe get on board with using some of the herbs and some of our garden bounty for more holistic kind of health remedies, headaches and burns and things like that. Why not use what we've got in our garden, what we're growing, what God's created for us to use, and see how those work instead of, fueling big pharma. So back to the parasites. Well, one thing that I read about parasites is that they're an organism will attach itself to a host or live inside of a host and drain all of its nutrients, not all of it, but it'll drain its nutrients that that host needs to live or to be healthy. And while it's attached itself to your body or living inside of you, it's eating up all the good things that you need. And this can cause damage to, your insides. It can be harmful to your skin. It can cause damage to your blood because they can also thrive on your bloodline. Or parasites can also create problems like, symptoms, diarrhea, vomiting, really bad, rashes, things like that. It can even cause pain, like in your joints. Could cause lack of sleep. There was a huge list of other things, and why not try to flush that bad stuff out so that you don't feel like that and you don't have these problems. Chances are I'm guessing, since we don't know where all of our drinking water comes from, and if you eat out, you probably don't know what's in your foods, so we may have a parasite. So I was just gifted this book called The Amish Ways, and they talk about home remedies for all the things we discussed: headaches, rashes, burns, fungus. They use garden herbs, they use things in your kitchen. One of the recipes in there was for what's called a tincture, and that tincture is a parasitic flush. So I went ahead and used things in my garden that I had on hand, and then I bought all of the other ingredients to make this tincture because I was very curious. It's something you don't use forever. It's just a week or two, but I'm gonna go ahead and make that recipe and show you all the ingredients that I bought, talk about what those ingredients do to help with this flush. How do they work? How do they work together? Yeah, so there's the chickens, if you can see them. Yeah. But yeah, I'm curious about trying this recipe, seeing at the end of the process how I feel, and go from there. In other countries, like Mexico, for instance, they actually treat their school-age children twice a year or something like that for parasites. So I'm just curious as to why, we don't do stuff. We have plenty of vaccines to keep our kids, to stave off disease and illness, but why not treat them for parasites? Why not treat ourselves for parasites and get those out of us? So let's go in. I'll walk you through the ingredients. We'll put it together and we'll make a parasitic flush. Let's get started.
This is The Amish Ways, and it's written by Eddie Swartzentruber. This book has so many interesting things that you can make at home with things that you have around the house, things that grow in your garden. He's got toothpaste. Here's a parasite flush recipe we're going to be doing. Highly recommend you check out this book. It's a really good one. This is wormwood. I'd never really seen or heard of wormwood before, but it's a perennial shrub that is extremely bitter, and it's used mostly as a cleansing ingredient. Garlic, thyme, this perennial herb grown in a lot of gardens. Fennel is a plant with an edible bulb, and the seeds are also edible. Cloves are dried flower buds. Pumpkin seeds pulled right out of the pumpkin and dried. They're used raw in home remedies, or they can be roasted and salted for a snack. Filtered spring water, you can also use distilled. Grain alcohol, this is made from distilling a grain like corn, wheat, or rye, and has a very high proof. In the follow-up video I'm going to show you another ingredient that's supposed to be a superstar when it comes to parasites. It's not in today's recipe, but I might make a second cleanse using this ingredient.
Okay, we made it to the part where we're going to take all the ingredients, put them together, and turn them into this parasitic flush tincture. We're going to be using the recipe from the Amish Ways book. And in that book, the recipe uses a lot of grams and milliliters. And I didn't have a way to measure grams, so I'm using a lot of tablespoons, teaspoons, and cups. But I'll tell you both what the book says and what I'm using here. So the first ingredient we have is grain alcohol. And grain alcohol is pretty much just 70% or more alcohol. And that is about 140 proof. I'm using less than 1.5 cups. And I say less, it's just a very slight less than, because the book calls for 350 milliliters of grain alcohol. Then we've got cloves. The book calls for
10 grams of cloves.
I'm using 2 tablespoons. We've got thyme. The book calls for 10 grams of thyme. I'm using 2 tablespoons. Fennel seeds, again, 10 grams in the book, and I'm using 2 tablespoons. Wormwood, 2 tablespoons, and 10 grams are what's in the book. And then we've got 20 grams of minced garlic, which is what's in the book. I'm using 1/8 of a cup. And then 20 grams of crushed pumpkin seeds, and I'm using 1/8 of a cup. So I minced the garlic, and then I've also crushed the pumpkin seeds using a coffee grinder to ensure that the seeds are kind of split open and broken apart. And we're also using about 2/3 cup of spring filtered water, which in the book is about 150 milliliters. And I did look this up. This spring water is filtered. Just check it when you buy it. It can also be distilled. Now I'm going to add all of the dry or heavy ingredients into this sanitized jar. And then once I've added it, then we will add the liquids on top of that. So let's get going.
While the other ingredients may kill the parasitic worms, cloves can kill the eggs they've left behind. Thyme helps breaking down the parasitic biofilm so the other ingredients in the flush can do their job. Fennel seed stops fermentation in the stomach to help expel gas. Wormwood mainly helps with intestinal issues like bloating, gas, poor appetite, and is good for the gallbladder function. Pumpkin seeds have the compound that paralyzes parasites. This helps the worms release their grips on your insides, which makes it easier to flush them out. Garlic has historically been used to kill intestinal worms or parasites. It also helps lower bad cholesterol and can lower high blood pressure. Grain alcohol is used often in homemade tinctures. It can also lead to long shelf life for tinctures without spoiling. Herbalists believe that natural minerals in the water help deliver the medicine to your cells better than dead water. And here's all the ingredients mixed in the jar, just ready to process, ready to sit and infuse with each other.
Okay, our mixture is ready. Here's what it looks like. You want to shake it up really good. Make sure you have a lid on it. Shake it up really good. And then we're going to store it in a cabinet or pantry, somewhere that's cool and dark for about 4 to 6 weeks. Once 4 to 6 weeks is over, I will do a follow-up video and we can go over the next steps of what we need to do before we can actually start taking this mixture. In the book, it says you need to shake this every day while it's in storage for the 4 to 6 weeks. So set a reminder on your phone and go in there and give it a good shake. And that'll help all the ingredients infuse into each other. I will leave all the ingredients, including the link for the book, in the description below. It will be an idea list, so you can just click on one link and it'll have all the ingredients there ready for you, including the book. And I highly suggest that you get on board with me. Let's try to cleanse out our systems for the new year. And I'm wishing you blessings and fortune and all kinds of wonderful things in this new year that we just started. So come back, see the second video, and remember, come grow with us.